Thank you, Nate. So as you mentioned, we're talking about Spreadsheet Link today. We're going to talk about some advanced saved settings. We're going to go through a couple of essentials first and kind of talk about some issues that we might be having and how the advanced save might help you with some of those workflows. So in a lot of cases, we have a lot of information in our projects. And a lot of the information requires updating or maintenance over time on a regular basis. In some cases, Spreadsheet Link can be a good tool for that. Sometimes the updating actually has to happen in another model, or you have to ask the model some questions, reformat the data, and represent it in a different way in a different area. And sometimes that updating of that represented information can be kind of tedious. And I'll show you 3 different examples today using Spreadsheet Link and actually one of our brand new tools that just got released, and kind of show you how you can take some of this information that exists inside of Revit and really format it and do some powerful manipulation of it using external spreadsheet files. So in a lot of cases, not all this information that you're dealing with is from a single category. Sometimes you need level information combined with wall information, combined with room information, combined with whatever you want. Or sometimes it's mechanical data versus electrical data, and they have to trade information back and forth between the two. Sometimes it's just basically view names that you need to be updating based on some kind of a level abbreviation, view template combination, phase, something like that. And so we're going to go through the examples today of renaming some views in our project, as well as at the same time leveraging the title on sheet property, and we're going to base this all on a couple of different tabs. This will be the most simplistic example that we use. The next example, I'm going to trade information between 2 different files. I'm going to use a mechanical electrical example here, and I'm going to talk about how Spreadsheet Link Express can do it on a very automatic way. And then I'm also going to talk about how we can go through and take room data or space data, export it out, reformat it completely, and use sort of this guest tool that I'm going to talk about here in a moment to actually represent the information in Revit and keep it all up to date as you're working. So the Spreadsheet Link specifically allows this advanced save. It allows for more complex logic by using a pre-existing saved spreadsheet. It allows this process to be repeatable, so you can, again, base it on some saved settings. It could include automatic settings from Spreadsheet Link that are doing some formula work. It can also, again, use lookups from other tabs that maybe pre-exist. The Spreadsheet Link Express helps to automate this process so that users never have to actually see the spreadsheet window. Depending on what's going on, they can just run the tool. It might just run, be done, and then they can move on with their workflows. They can run it on a regular basis to have it run whatever the update happens to be, and they don't necessarily have to know what the magic is behind the scenes. You can also have some automatic saving of a spreadsheet for automatic exports on a regular basis. So if you want data pulled out of the model, extracted for somebody else to be able to use or consume in some fashion, you can use Spreadsheet Link to help pull this out and automatically save a spreadsheet when the user clicks the button to go ahead and tell it to update that data. So without doing too much PowerPoint here, let's just jump right into the actual Revit environment and start talking about what's going to actually happen here. So again, I was talking about some view renaming. Now this is going to be the most simplistic representation of some of my data because I'm not actually using truly an advanced save. I'm just using some saved settings. We're going to talk about how to leverage that and how to make that process a bit more automated using the Spreadsheet Link Express. And then the next example, I'll talk about a more advanced example here. We are going to use some information across 2 different tabs, however. So right now what I have is a number of views that exist inside of here. And as this project has progressed, the naming convention kind of fell apart, and people haven't really been following a clean naming convention. It's kind of all over the map, different types of conventions. And that's not really making me super happy. I'd like to have these views all named something consistent, and so I can identify them very easily with a specific pattern. So I'm going to use something like Spreadsheet Link to make this happen. So with Spreadsheet Link, what I'm going to do is take 2 things and pull them together. Now I'm going to do this in sort of a simplistic way first, and then I'm going to open up my saved settings that I used earlier to actually show you what I'm doing for the full configuration here and take a look at some of the logic that I put together. I'm not going to try to explain a lot about the spreadsheet logic. I'm using Excel formulas here. Certainly dig into those. They're really powerful. I'm going to use some concatenation tools and some if-then statements at this point. But and actually, I'm going to use a couple of VLOOKUPs as well. But we'll see what goes on here. So I'm going to go to the views area. I'm going to bring my views across. And with the views, what I want to leverage here is the actual view name. I might want to use the title on sheet if I want to correct that as well. I might want to use the view type. So I'm going to go down here and use view type, which tells me if that's not what I wanted. Let's see, type name, is that what it was? Nope, that wasn't it. Let's see, there's a number of different properties I could use. Let's see here. I'll get there eventually. I'll find out what it is. Let's see, I also want to have the level that's associated with the view. So we're going to go ahead and grab the level. Associated level, actually, I believe is what it's called. Yep, there it is. I want to use the view template that might be associated to my view. And we also have a parameter, because I've used on this project before a tool called Spreadsheet Link, View Creator. It's automatically built in this View Creator abbreviation parameter that I also want to use. So if I have a View Creator abbreviation associated to the view, I want to use that. Otherwise, I want to use the view template name. And then finally, maybe what I want to use is the phase. So here's my phasing. Now, with this, I also, for the levels specifically that exist inside here, I want to go through and use whatever level abbreviation has been associated as well. The trick is I can't find that from my views list. So I'm going to go ahead and pull another object type inside of here and use my levels. So with the levels, I want to know what the level name happens to be. So I'm going to go in here and find the name. And I'm also going to find the View Creator abbreviation again. So it'll tell me whatever the abbreviation was set up from View Creator. And if I want to, I can sort these by, sequence or whatever the case may be. But I don't really need to sort these. I just need to be able to look up from here. So I can say, oh yeah, level 4, its abbreviation is 04. So whatever the user types in up here in View Creator abbreviations, I can actually use that inside of my Spreadsheet Link process here. So what I'm going to do is go back to my views area and start doing some kind of view name association. Actually, I need to find that one category option here. I believe it's category. Let's see. Nope, that's views. Let's see. Family and type. There we go. That's what I'm looking for, is family. The reason why I want family is because I want to be able to filter based on the fact that the view is floor plans. I'm not going to worry about renaming my elevations and 3D views yet. I can do that later. But for right now, my goal in this particular example is to focus explicitly on floor plan views, or plan views in general, ceiling plans and floor plans. So for my filters, I want to make sure I'm filtering based on the family here. So I'm going to go ahead and use family. And I want to make sure that it contains some kind of a property here like plan. So I'm just going to take and use plan as my filter. So this should give me over here floor plans, and if I had any ceiling plans, it should include those as well. So I now have that contains plan option in there. Oh, there we go. There's some ceiling plans that are showing up on my list. So what I should be able to do now is start writing a little bit of a phrase here, a little bit of a statement to build up this new level name. And what I want to do is use the level abbreviation looked up from, whatever this level is here. So if it's basement level, for example, I want to use the basement level of 00. So I can do a little lookup. So I can put equals VLOOKUP and tell it that I want to look up whatever the format is here. Now, I don't remember exactly what that formatting is. So usually what I'll do is save my spreadsheet out temporarily to Excel and leverage Excel's heads-up display. So I can type in VLOOKUP and it'll tell me what it's actually looking for. And then I can type that in and I can copy and paste that right back into here inside a Spreadsheet Link. For right now, what I'll do is I think I have the formatting remembered. I think VLOOKUP, the first thing it wants is the range of information. So I'm going to go over here and just grab this range of data here. And since I don't necessarily know how much data I might have, I'm going to go ahead and make this a little longer and make it go down to about 100 in case I had 100 levels, which I probably wouldn't, but I can at least start that way. Then I want to tell it what information it is I want to look up. So for example, I'm going to use this cell right here. And then I'll tell it that I want to use column number 2 for my lookup information. So it goes to the second column, where there's actually 2 columns over here in my levels tab, and I'll go back to that in a minute here. And we'll make sure that this is working in just a second. And then I want to make sure that it uses an exact match. There's an option there for false. So if I hit this, hopefully that will grab that information. Apparently it's not going to. Let me just kind of switch up these fields real quick here. I'll pull this out of here and replace it here and see if that works. Okay, that's going to actually do my lookup. So it wanted the value first of what it's looking up, then it wanted the range, and then it wanted to know what column it was getting its information from, and then it's doing an exact lookup. So I just got my first field here, so that gives me the 0, 0. So that's important. Now I'm going to go in here and put in a concatenation. And I want to do quote space dash space. This is going to put just a little, space dash space in the mix here. And I want to use the value from whatever my view creator abbreviation is. And I would usually put like an if-then statement here to say, oh, if this is empty, then just use the view template name. But for now, I'm just going to use the H4. And maybe I'll use the little phase action over here in case I happen to have some existing views, which I do. I might want to go in there and say, well, if it's existing, I want to maybe abbreviate it with something else. So I'm going to go, if this field over here equals existing, then use exist as an abbreviation. Otherwise, just use that field. Okay, so I can kind of hit enter here, and that'll give me a name. Oh, otherwise use nothing perhaps. Otherwise use nothing. There we go. So this is going to give me a 00 dash presentation plan. So this is the formula that I want to use. Now I want to populate this all the way down. So over here in Spreadsheet Link, I'm going to tell the view name to be a calculated value so that over here when I hit enter, it should run down the entire list. And it should name everything. In this case, it's doing NA for some reason. It doesn't understand how to look up something from here. It should. Oh, I know what's going on. No, I don't know what's going on. Oh, yes, yes. What it's doing is it's incrementing my C4 and D100 as it goes down that list. So what I'm going to do is make this be a fixed field here. So $C4, $D100. And now what it'll do is give me my view naming all the way down. So here we go. I've got a bunch of view names all the way down my list. There's a few here where my view template don't have anything. I'd have to put some kind of logic in there to say, well, if there isn't a view template associated to, in this case, an area plan, then don't leverage that type of logic or something, or maybe leverage the associated level that it belongs to. So there's some logic I could build into this. But ultimately, at this point, I could save these settings. And this is somewhat of a complex lookup, right? I'm using Spreadsheet Link to do something a bit more complex than just using a single category's values. So I'm looking up from a different tab. Now I'd want to make sure I save these settings so I can apply this later. So I can go save settings either to the file, to the project, or I can use an advanced save. Now we're not to an advanced save stage just yet. We're just going to save these settings to a file ultimately, and then be able to recall this later. Now instead of me doing this right now, what I want to do is actually load the settings that I wrote before, just as kind of like some Betty Crocker settings, right? I'm going to pull these out and leverage these. If I load these settings from a file, I've got some view renaming tools that I've kind of pre-built. So you guys can definitely go in there and leverage some, repeatable processes on your views. If I open this up now, it's doing something very similar, right? It's pulling in the levels. It's pulling in the level name and the view creator abbreviation, but it's doing a little bit more intelligence on the actual lookup here. It's doing an if statement for the VLOOKUP, trying to see if it can find something that it's supposed to be using. If it does, then it's supposed to go through and actually, leverage certain properties here. It's actually using the wrong value though. It's using E4 and it should be using F4. So that got modified here. Let's kind of re-update this real quick. And if my view creator abbreviation, which is actually H, is incorrect, then it's supposed to use I. Otherwise, it's going to do H. So I got my fields off by one field here accidentally. Let's go ahead and just kind of fix this real quick, and I'm going to resave my settings. Okay, and good. Or not good. Why is it not good? Well, either way, you can load up your settings, and had I not, I put in a new field here just before the presentation, and obviously I did not update my formulas over here properly. But this is also going through, it's doing two things. It would normally go through and do the view name, and it would also update my title on sheet, so that my view name and my title on sheet could also be at the same time updated. So I can fix all my view names, fix all my titles on sheet, get everything ready to go, so my views that are already on sheets are also renamed properly at the same time. One more thing here, F here as well. There we go. Just missed one little value there. So at this point, what I would want to do is just make sure that I resave my settings back out, save my settings to a file. We'll save these as view renaming, save that. So that if I want to rerun this later on or throughout the life cycle of my project, I should be able to do that. So my views now have two calculated values, the view name and the title on sheet, and the levels out here are just being extracted from my project so I can pull them directly. Now if I was to apply this, I could apply, in this case, my active worksheet, have it push this all back into my project, and all of my views would be renamed. But here's the deal. If I wanted an end user to run this, I don't necessarily want them to open up this and see all the magic that's going on behind the scene because they might get freaked out or confused or whatever. What I might want them to do after I have saved my settings, which I just did, I just saved my settings to a file here, my view renaming settings. So once I save those out, all I really want them to do is go through and run my settings. So if I want them just to run them, let me just click no here and just tell, I didn't actually change, I didn't save anything to my project, I just saved my settings file out. What the end users can do on a regular basis is they can go Spreadsheet Link Express, they can load the settings for the view renaming right here, and they can get their entire project, or you as a BIM manager can get the entire project to update appropriately once you know that your spreadsheets are all running properly. All those formulas are all working here. So I'm going to go ahead and it's going to ask me a question here. Do I want to name corresponding level and views? And that's because there's some views here, like in my general floor plans, that directly match the level name. And I'm going to answer no to this. I don't want to rename the actual levels. I just want to rename the views themselves. So it's going to rip through my project and go ahead and rename the 51 views it's supposed to. I've now got those views all renamed. And there was a question that popped up that said, can I show how to use the existing view name in a formula? Well, I did use the existing view name right here. But I'm going to go ahead and open up Spreadsheet Link again and kind of show what I did to actually leverage the existing portion, if I understood the question properly here. So Spreadsheet Link, I'm going to load up my settings, load settings from file, grab my view renaming settings here, and show you exactly what I did for the actual existing portion here. So if I click over to the Views tab, so my formula looks like if my VLOOKUP here for my level name has this field as empty. Basically, if this field is empty, it's supposed to use the level name. Otherwise, it's going to use the value pulled from here. So that's what this long if statement right here is looking for. It's trying to figure out if that level name has an abbreviation or not. Either way, it's going to either use the level name or the abbreviation, one or the other. Then what it's going to do is put a space dash space. You're seeing the result of that right here. The level abbreviation, space dash space. Then it does an if H4, which over here is the view creator abbreviation. So if this is blank, it's going to use the view template name. Otherwise, it's going to use the view creator abbreviation, the view template specifying. That's what this little phrase here is telling it to do. And then what it's going to do is look for one more thing. It's going to look to see if the scope box has a name. So if this view happens to be a dependent view, it's also going to grab the name of the scope box. So it also names my dependent views automatically. If it says none, it puts nothing. Otherwise, what it'll do is put a hyphen and use the name of the actual scope box to name my view. I don't have any dependent views here, so I can't really show that example too well. But then at the very end here, it says if the word existing exists over here in the phase column, then it's going to put space dash space exists. Otherwise, it puts nothing. And the example of that one exists right here. You can see the result of an existing floor plan. It's finding existing, putting exist. In the case of new construction, because it's not existing, it puts nothing. So there's the example of the two different representations of either existing views or new views. Hopefully that kind of answers that question for you. All right. So you saw me leverage the Spreadsheet Link Express right here, and I basically renamed all of my floor plan views in my entire project based on the rules that were set up in the Spreadsheet Link. So whipped through, named everything. Now all of my views are all named based on whatever my standard happens to be, whether they were authored from the View Creator tool in the first place or not. And by the way, we are running a series right now. The next session in the series for cleaning your project is this Thursday. And this is one of those things that you could leverage for cleaning your project, right? You could use Spreadsheet Link and Spreadsheet Link Express to do something like this, to just update some view names in a project environment to bring things back into standard, back into standards compliance. So powerful tool for that, just kind of a bonus extra on that particular series that may or may not show up in the actual presentations. All right, so that was an example of leveraging Spreadsheet Link and Spreadsheet Link Express using just saved settings. Okay, that's basic save settings. The purpose of today's presentation is to talk about advanced settings, but I wanted to kind of set the stage by saying you can do some pretty complex things with just basic saved settings. Like in this case, I'm looking up from 2 different tabs. That wasn't an advanced process, though it may seem as such. It's not what Spreadsheet Link considers advanced. Let's take a look at what Spreadsheet Link does consider advanced. All right, I'm going to set the stage for this. What I have is 2 project files. I have a mechanical file and an electrical file. So mechanical engineer is dropping in, since mechanical is dropping in all of the equipment with motors on it, electrical has to respond to that. And if they happen to be in a separate model for whatever reason, they're in a different company, they're not able to work in the same mechanical model, the project is too big, whatever the reason is, they still have to get that information from the mechanical engineer. They have to have motors in their model that they can circuit, and they have to be able to, work through that whole process. And there's tons of equipment when the mechanical engineer is placing their equipment in there that the electrical engineer has to coordinate. And that can take a lot of time, especially the first time through. But then when there's updates, they still have to go through and kind of coordinate everything just in case there was changes they weren't aware of. So let's take a look at how Spreadsheet Link with an advanced workflow can actually help you with this process. So I'm going to go to the mechanical model here. We're going to open this up first. While this is opening, there was a question that popped in. It says, since demo is done on new construction, how can you denote demo? The answer to that I leverage usually is by making a demo floor plan view template and having the view creator name apply to the actual view. So there's actually a view template called floor plan demo, and then the view creator abbreviation is demo floor plan or something. And then that would be the name part that would get associated to the level 1 demo floor plan. So I would use a view template for that. You don't have to do that, but I'd use a view template because that also then helps you set what the phase filtering is going to be. So when you make that demo view template, the phase filtering can automatically be set for you, as well as the grouping within your project browser potentially, depending on how you set that up. So I would use a view template and have that name part actually be leveraged for that view naming. And I use that same feature here in my view creator, by the way. So if I'm in view creator, I don't think this actually has a demo plan view here, but if I was over here, if I had a demo plan view template, my abbreviation that would show up here would be something that would relate to a demo floor plan or a floor plan dash demo in some form. And then I'd still associate it to the new phase, the new construction phase, but the abbreviation would be a part of the name creation. Okay, let's dig back here into the mechanical environment. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this in a 2-step process. It would be 2 different teams that would be responsible for this information generally. Or potentially if the electrical engineer was trying to acquire information from mechanical and they're working in a different company, as they receive the mechanical engineer's model, they could open it up and run this process to extract the data. And then when they open up their electrical model, they could basically pull that information in. So this is how this workflow goes. The mechanical engineer, again, I have this VAV box right here. And you can see it has a voltage in this case of 277 volts. It's got 1 pole. It has a parent load of 271 volt amps. My number 12 box over here is slightly different. It's a 12 volt box. For whatever reason, it still has 271 volt amps, and it's got a single pole. Let me take this box here, this box number 1. I'm going to make a copy of it real quick. So I'll do a copy. We'll have a box number 3 here, and I'm going to make another copy, and I'm going to have a box number 2 over here. This is VAV number 2, and I'm just going to put in an obnoxious number here for VAV number 3. VAV 3 here is going to have, I don't know, 66 volts. I don't know, just pick something randomly, and for the apparent load here, I'm going to pick something, we'll go 99, and I'm going to put 2 poles, right? So it's just some obnoxious numbers that exist, but they're specified by the mechanical engineer who's, maybe this is coming from the manufacturer or something, right? They're silly numbers, but we're going to see how that can be automatically pulled across into the motor here in a moment. So I'm going to save this model because the electrical engineer, of course, is going to need this eventually. And if I am working in the same company, maybe it's my responsibility to actually export these settings. So if I use Spreadsheet Link here, what I would do with Spreadsheet Link is I would use my load from file, my loading my settings from a file. Now, I happen to have, if I back this up here, one more step, in my RIT workflows, I have my mechanical electrical workflow, and some of you have seen this before, where I've taken my my mechanical equipment export and run this. But usually what I have to do before I run this, my first step usually has to be open, and I have to go browse for that spreadsheet manually and use my template. I have to select my template so that it opens this up, because this template has an import electrical tab specially set on it. And I have a mechanical export, I have an electrical export, and this import electrical tab right here does a bunch of resolution where it looks up information from my mechanical tab, it looks up information from my electrical fixtures tab, and it resolves it over here so my electrical model can get the combination of the 2 bits of data. So it just does some basic lookups here. The problem is that if I forget to open this up first and I just run my export, or I just run my load settings from file here and I just grab my basic settings, then I don't necessarily get everything that I need. It won't have this intelligence over here, and this is where the actual magic happens. So what I have instead is this advanced settings that's been saved. And I'm going to do an advanced settings save here in just a moment. I'm going to show you how this works, but I'm going to load these settings up real quick for you first. I'm going to open this up. When I open up the advanced settings, what it actually does is its very first step is it opens up a spreadsheet. In fact, if I save settings right now using an advanced save, this dialog box here pops up, advanced save settings. Now it's going to recall the exact settings that I just loaded here, but what it's going to do is it's going to save my information, my settings file, my actual saved SL settings file to a file instead of to my project. You do have an option of saving the settings to your project directly instead of here, so that if anybody who opens a project will already have the settings file, they won't have to browse for anything. My personal preference usually is to save to a file though. What I can do is specify a template worksheet. So I actually browsed out and found a template worksheet that I wanted to use. So I'm using this one right here, this little project name, just because I didn't want to overwrite my, my current spreadsheet just in case. So I made a copy of it real quick. But regardless, I can choose whatever template it is I want to use. I can overwrite the spreadsheet when loading my settings from Spreadsheet Link Express. It automatically overwrites the spreadsheet. Whatever one it is I'm loading from here, it's going to automatically overwrite that. So if I click on this, it'll go, oh yeah, a new spreadsheet will be created in that specified location, which is the same folder right here. If the spreadsheet already exists, it's going to go ahead and overwrite it. And what it does actually when it creates that spreadsheet in the first place is it uses the name of my project. So it uses my project name, which is mech, and then it uses the settings file name. So however I save my settings file is how it's going to actually name, part of how it names my resulting spreadsheet. So I also have the ability to have it create a brand new spreadsheet every single time I run this through Spreadsheet Link Express. Now if I load my settings and run it directly from the spreadsheet main interface, none of this down here actually makes any, doesn't have any effect. But if I'm using Spreadsheet Link Express, which is my personal preferred method, then that does have effect. And what it'll do is automatically open up my spreadsheet. It automatically runs this mechanical export of information and puts my mechanical information out here on this tab, right there. And then it automatically saves my spreadsheet out so that my electrical team can go ahead and leverage it. What I have to do right now if I do this manually is I have to save it someplace. I have to choose where it's going to go. So I would choose something like the mech-elec workflow advanced or something like that. I'd overwrite a particular file out here and save that wherever it needs to go. If I didn't necessarily want to do that manual process there, where I'm opening up my settings manually and doing this, again, I can have an end user just run the settings using Spreadsheet Link Express. So mechanical engineer on a regular basis could go Spreadsheet Link Express settings, browse, grab the advanced mechanical equipment export, and open that up. When they apply those settings, it just automatically writes that file out. So it doesn't change anything in my project. There was a couple of errors, you can ignore that, but it does actually successfully save that spreadsheet out. Right now on my computer it happens to be 12:30, almost 12:31. If I was to open up my folder where I have these particular settings saved, if I, let me browse that real quick here. So here's my mechanical electrical workflow. If I look at my date modified right here, here's my 12:30 modification there for that advanced spreadsheet. It's now 12:31. If I was to run this Spreadsheet Link Express again and just re-grab those settings, Let's grab those advanced mechanical exports and apply my settings. It's going to, again, resave those settings out. Nothing changes in my particular file here, but inside my actual Windows directory, it saved out this new XLS file at 12/31. So there's an update to this Excel file, and that's important because I need that update to go out for the mechanical team. Now let's go for the electrical team. Let me save this file here, shut this down, and I'm going to open up my electrical file. Let's talk about how to do the next advanced step here, because the electrical team needs an advanced step as well. So what the electrical team is going to do is they're going to make sure that they have a motor placed that they can actually circuit. This has an electrical connection on it. They can circuit this. I'm going to take this motor and my tag, and I'm going to copy this around. Now I happen to have a view set up right now that helps me see what the VAV tag names are from the electrical or from the mechanical file. Copy this one more time here. Copy it over to there. Now I notice my numbers aren't quite lined up here, so I'm going to go ahead and call this one out as VAV2. My dialog popped up in a different window here, so VAV2, and this is VAV3. This is the only thing that I, as an electrical engineer, would have to do manually, but there, it's the one thing that's going to tie the two models together so that this motor knows it's VAV3, and it's supposed to pull its information from the VAV3 field. So if I go to my Express tools again, I could either choose to go to Spreadsheet Link, which will let me see the magic that's happening, and at this point as an electrical engineer I probably would want to do that. Or I could run Spreadsheet Link Express and just have it happen, where it just updates my data. Now let's kind of see what this information looks like in the background, what their normal process would be before I open up the Spreadsheet Link. If I look at this motor right now, it's got 1 volt, 1 pole, 1 volt amp. So it's just got some basic information. Same thing on this guy, 1 volt, 1 pole, 1 volt amp. That they're all the same. They have no data currently pulled into them. If I wanted to, I could tab through and grab the mechanical engineer's VAV unit, and I could look at what the properties are, remember what they are, go back to my motor, and then I could type those numbers in. And then I could circuit it, of course, to whatever panel board it needs to go to. I could take VAV3, tab through, and go, okay, well, those are some silly numbers, but that's what they say they are. So I could grab my motor and I could enter those. But on hundreds of pieces of equipment across the model, that takes a while. So let's leverage Spreadsheet Link here, load some settings. Again, I'm going to load some settings from a file, and I'm going to use the advanced save so it knows to go and grab the correct spreadsheet because of how I've saved it. And it's going to then export my electrical information again. So at this point, what I have is my electrical fixtures saved out. I have 12, 1, 2, and 3. My mechanical equipment's been saved out. It's 12, 1, 3, and 2. The order's a little different. Doesn't really matter. If I look specifically here at 3 and 2, over here, and the 2 and 3 right here, you notice that all the electrical default export information is all ones for the voltage, the number of poles, and the apparent load. The mechanical equipment here has all the correct information on it. The order is different, but if I go over here to my import electrical, I actually have this information all resolved. So my electrical model now has the same 12, 1, 2, and 3. The information's all aligned, associated, the correct number of poles, whatever on the motors, and I can apply this active worksheet directly right back to my model now. Apply it back, yes. And I've updated 4 objects. So if I shut this down, I now have these motors with the same exact properties that existed in the background here from the MEP file, or from the mechanical file. So mechanical and electrical were now coordinated in a matter of seconds. So that's an advanced workflow, again, using the Spreadsheet Link. Or I could have used Spreadsheet Link Express. I could have run Spreadsheet Link Express on this. Let me just kind of go back and cancel this out and set this motor back to 1s again. 1, 1, and 1. So it's been reset to nothing. If I was to go to Express Tools, Spreadsheet Link Express, I could load my advanced settings here from my motor export. It's going to export some information, but it's also going to update and import my information. So it updated 1 object, and it left 3 of them unchanged because there were no changes. So when I get updates from the mechanical engineer, I can also update in just a matter of seconds. And now I, again, have that correct information on my motor. So it takes just a few seconds to do that, but that's that advanced save. That advanced save lets me grab that external spreadsheet, opens it up, runs my export of data, does whatever it has to do, and applies whatever it needs to back to my model. That's what that advanced save is designed to do. So this is a mechanical electrical example. Now some of you are architectural and you're like, well, I don't do this. I don't need this kind of advanced stuff. Well, maybe you do. Let me show you another example, one final example before we end today that shows you something you could do architecturally, or this is true mechanically, electrically as well. So before you take off, take a look at this next one. And this is where I'm going to bring in that guest tool That isn't Spreadsheet Link or Spreadsheet Link Express, but it is going to help you with presenting information. So I'm going to shut these models down here. And I'm going to go back to my architectural model here. Now in my architectural model, I have a bunch of rooms in a bunch of different levels. So if I go to, say, my general architectural floor plan here on level 1, in this view, I do have a number of rooms. So I've got a room right here. It has some square footage associated to it, some area. And maybe what I want to do is I want to take the total usable square footage of my entire building. I want to export them all out, and then I want to manipulate the data and give myself level by level totals and present it back in a meaningful way. Well, I have a spreadsheet out here already. Let me open this up real quick here. So in my Spreadsheet Link environment, I've already predefined a room totals spreadsheet here. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. So right here is my basic spreadsheet. Now I pre-saved this out. This is some save settings again. I have information from my rooms export. It's currently blank, but this is my template file that I'm going to be using. I have level information. Again, that's currently blank. That'll be filled out here in a moment. And then I have some formatted room areas. And I want whatever the level name is to total up whatever the actual area is on that level, and then to give me a complete building total down here at the bottom. I've kind of, done some little cell shading inside of here, and I want this to be what effectively shows up back in Revit. But I need to get the information into this tab first, into this area. So let's find out if we can actually get that to happen. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to shut this down. I'm going to use spreadsheet, my room area total settings here to author this particular settings file here. I'm going to delete this Excel spreadsheet. So all I have is my template, and I have my settings file. So I'm going to show you how I can actually run this export. So Spreadsheet Link Express. I'm not going to open it up and show you the settings just yet. I'm just going to run it directly. So here is my Spreadsheet Link, room totals, and my room area total settings file. So that's going to run. I'm going to apply those settings real quick here, apply settings. It's going to pop up with the message that says it didn't update anything, but what it did do was save out my spreadsheet. So no worksheets imported. That's fine. It may not have, it tells me here that the result of this might just be because it doesn't have an import tab. That's okay. So it didn't update anything. But what it did do, if I go back into Windows here, Windows Explorer, is it wrote out this Excel file. So right here it saved an Excel file for me. In this Excel file, what it did was it exported all of my rooms. That's the first category. There was actually a question that popped in and said, can I verify that I can do 2 different categories in one Spreadsheet Link Express settings file? So I just did it. I have my rooms category right here. I have my levels category right here. It grabbed both of those and exported them both out. Over here on my formatted room areas tab, there was a lookup that's basically using all the information coming off of levels. Oh, and by the way, on my levels tab, I also forced it to sort a certain way. So it's sorting based on the level, based on their elevation. And so in my formatted room areas, it sorts out here automatically as well. And then what it does is it goes and asks the rooms tab over here for any of the basement level rooms. It's going to total up the total area right there. And it gives me, in this case, about 6,800 square foot for my basement level. And then it gives me about 1,400 or 14,000 for my level 2. And then it does a total at the very bottom down here because it's summing up these fields right here. So I'm leveraging 2 different exported categories from Spreadsheet Link Express, and then I'm reformatting the information over here. Now I'm not importing any of this back into my object data in Revit. What I am going to do is I'm going to have exactly this spreadsheet showing inside my Revit project on my cover sheet. Well, how am I going to do that? Because Revit doesn't know how to link spreadsheets. I'm going to show you that right now as well. I'm going to use the other tool. It's called Schedule Excel. This is a brand new tool. If you haven't downloaded our tools recently, there's a brand new update for 2016, which also applies to 2015 and 14. So when you download that and install it, it applies to all 3 versions of Revit automatically. That'll upgrade all of them. Schedule Excel is a new tool that you'll actually see pop up. Schedule Excel, what this lets you do is link, literally link, spreadsheets into Revit. So I'm going to create a brand new, or I'm going to open up a spreadsheet right here, in this case the one that I just exported. I'm going to use this Formatted Room Areas tab as what I want to be creating in the Revit environment. And it's going to create a room called Formatted Room Areas. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and click OK here. So what Spreadsheet or Schedule Excel is going to do is actually create for me that view. So as I update my room areas over time, these can be maintained. As I rerun my Spreadsheet Link Express, this will update every time I open up my project, just like a regular link in Revit would do. So now I've got this. I can go to my sheet over here. Let's go to some kind of a cover sheet, new sheet. We'll just use a basic title block here. This will just be general 000 or whatever, T00. It doesn't matter, cover sheet. All right, so I've got my cover sheet sitting here. I'm going to take that formatted room areas schedule and drop this out here into my drafting area, right? So I've got the actual colored infilled backgrounds here coming out of Excel. I've got the same fonts effectively coming out of Excel. All that information is ready to go using all those totaled up areas. So if I go to my building here, I'm going to make a modification to this particular facility, and I'm going to rerun this export, and I'm going to update this link real quick. So if I go to, say, my level 1 floor plan over here, if I was to grab this wall over here and drag this over, I may have to grab this wall here and drag it as well. What I should get is a bunch of information updating. Oh, look at that. There's a bunch of rooms that are now inside of an same enclosed space. Let's undo that. Let's pick some other location where my walls will actually stretch properly. We'll grab this one here maybe and drag this up a little ways. There we go. Now my walls have actually stretched. And hopefully my rooms, yep, my rooms inside those areas have updated somewhat. It's not a big update, but they have updated. They have now changed, and hopefully there's still rooms that are in enclosed areas. But they've gotten larger. Let's make them a little bit larger yet. Take this and bring this out to the back of the building here. Let that update a little bit. There we go. So I've doubled the square footage approximately in these offices, plus maybe a little bit. Anyway, what I'm going to do is rerun my export. Now this is from my main level, level 1. So let's just double check the numbers here real quick. If I go back to my sheets, my cover sheet right here, level 1 has 8686. Pretty easy number to remember. I'm going to go to Spreadsheet Link Express. I'm going to rerun my room area total export here. So that takes my information from my Revit model and pushes it out to an external spreadsheet. Once that goes out there, oh, you know what? Accidentally, I had that spreadsheet open. So hang on a second. I have to rerun that one more time. I had that spreadsheet open in the background, so I couldn't write to it. That was my fault. I'm going to shut that down. I'm going to rerun my spreadsheet link settings real quick here. So browse, room area totals, apply those settings. So right now in Revit, the total here is 8686 for my level 1. Didn't export anything, didn't change anything, or didn't import anything rather, didn't change anything in my model, but it did run that export. So if I go here, there's a new update here as of 12/44. If I open this up, just take a look at it real quick, you'll notice that on the formatted room areas, the old 8686 number, which I can't see back there, is now 9129. I'm going to close this without saving because it's already been updated. What I should be able to do at this point is I should be able to just run my schedule Excel and have this update that particular schedule. Let's just run update on this just like I would update a normal link. So that ran, that updated my level 1, and of course it updated my building totals as well. So I didn't even have to open up the Excel. I could just make the modification and export it using Spreadsheet Link Express, and the next time my model opened up, automatically this would have updated because it's already set to auto update, or I can, while I'm live in Revit, tell it to update it manually as well. So a number of workflows there where I can take data from Revit, kick it out, manipulate that information in a spreadsheet, and show it back in Revit in a somewhat intelligent BIM schedule, right? This data right here came from my Revit model. Now, some of you are probably sitting there thinking, yeah, but you could have done it with a Revit schedule. Okay, I could have done the most of this with a Revit schedule. You're right. But this is just an example of something that you could export, reformat, and bring back into Revit.